Hi, friends. I wanted to do a follow-up video to the visa video that I posted recently. And as a response to that video, there were a lot of comments of people saying, oh, here's what happened to me. I had this experience. And I also received a personal message from somebody who works in immigration down at Ho Chi Minh Airport. And we proceeded to have a back and forth conversation over a few different items. And I thought this is such valuable information to share. I really wanted to do this follow up so that I could continue to share the information and in hopes that everyone gets their visa sorted, it's perfect, it's smooth. When you come into the country with your everything, all the documentation, everything lined up, everything's been thought through, prepared, smooth sailing. If there's an issue, it can really cause a lot of problems that nobody wants there to be a problem at the airport, at immigration. Nobody wants to not be able to get into the country. So let's talk about them. The first thing that I wanted to share, I have it on my phone here, is the response that I got to my video from the immigration officer in Ho Chi Minh City. And it says, I work at the airport and I see passengers with visa problems every day. What concerns me most is when travelers have problems with their visas and then try to be uncooperative with immigration officers. Once they know you're not happy with paying for a new visa, they'll be more than happy to deport you. I talked with many travelers who later regretted and were ready to pay, but it was too late then because the deportation order was already made. If you can tell travelers to think carefully before they react, especially for the e-visa information on your e-visa, it must match those on your passport. So this is a really good and important topic. And I will only speak from my own awareness. And so if you are Vietnamese, please feel free to chime in the comments. I don't want to misstate anything. I'm sure there's a lot of more detail as well as nuances. But what I will say is that respect is extremely important. And there is a known hierarchy in Vietnam of respect. And it's very important to not raise your voice, to get angry. It's very important to not have the attitude of, here's my rights, I want to talk to a manager. It's an attitude that we see more frequently in the West, and that's not appropriate here. As soon as someone raises their voice or is disrespectful, it's not going to end well. And so what this person is saying is, you don't get the opportunity to react poorly and then try to fix it. You want to be really careful about how you initially react and approach the officer with humility, with the mentality of, you have no rights. You're at their mercy. If there is anything wrong on your visa, or if there's any documentation that they ask for that you don't have, that is 100% your responsibility. So now it's figuring out, how do you get it? How do you fix it? Are they going to allow you at the gate to get your boarding pass, or at immigration? Are they going to allow you in? Can you fix it then? And a lot of that also depends on how you are in communication with the immigration officer. So that is very important. Let me finish with what this person said. I responded back and said, this is great information. Thank you so much. And are there other things that I can share with travelers that could help them and help you guys? And so there's a list. The first one is, it says, approaching a Vietnamese. Most Vietnamese have a fond idea for foreigners, especially Westerners. If you don't try to look down on them, I believe they will be respectful and helpful. I've seen travelers, intentionally or not, due to many reasons, seem to put themselves in a higher position. The Vietnamese culture is very aware of age and sex. In Vietnamese, we don't have brother. We only have either elder brother or younger brother. So if any advice, I would suggest approaching a Vietnamese in a respectful way with a smile if possible. Oops, I just lost my spot. It simply means you want to talk and show that you are educated. Number 2, airport problem. And also, this person has mentioned a couple times, they said, English is not my first language, I'll do my best. So I think they're doing an amazing job of communicating. But if some of the structure of the words wouldn't be the ones that you would use, that's why. So airport problem, number 2. Many travelers think that airline staff don't have the right to decide whether a person can board a flight or enter a country. And then in caps, it says this is totally wrong. It's the responsibility of the airlines to make sure a passenger meets all requirements to enter the disembarkation point before they can board the passenger. Some requirements are musts, like the visa, return tickets, money, accommodation bookings. Some are flexible, and it's the duty of the check-in staff to investigate and make decisions. Therefore, do not be surprised to know that you're required to present a return ticket you did not need last time. So this is another really important point when you are looking up what are the requirements to enter Vietnam or any country. There's often a list. And if you go on different chat groups, it'll say, oh, you need to show that when you are entering that country that you have a flight out. They want to make sure you're also leaving. And other people say, no, I wasn't asked for that. The point is that they are allowed to ask for that. It's part of the list of requirements. They don't always ask. But you might go to a country 4 times, they don't ask, and then the 5th time they do. So they are absolutely allowed to ask for those things and require them before either the airline gives you the boarding pass or immigration will allow you in. And so from my experience, I always go either prepared with the documentation I need or with a plan. The last thing I want to do is be surprised at the airport when you're in that high, like you're a little bit anxious, you're getting on a plane, the clock is ticking, and the gate agent or the ticket counter says, we need to see an onward ticket. And this has happened to me before. And you go, I'm sorry, what? Or you don't have it. And so when it happened to me specifically is when I was in Cambodia and I was flying to Bali. So I showed up at the airport and I go to check in. Here's my passport. And they said, let's see your onward ticket, meaning we want to see your flight out from Bali. And I said, oh, I don't know what day I'm going to leave. I'll land there on a 30-day visa, and I don't know yet my onward travel plans. They said, well, it's required. So that was the first time it has happened to me. And what made it really stressful is I didn't have data on my phone in order to just get online and even book a ticket. So now I'm grabbing my things. I'm not getting my boarding pass, and I know the clock is ticking, and I need to go figure out how to get Wi-Fi somewhere in order to sit down, open up a flight booking app, and then book something. And that takes a while. So had I been more prepared, I would have known like my plan A, plan B, plan C for that, which I do now. In that scenario, I ended up finding, I think I like ran to some lounge area. You have to get the Wi-Fi, wait for somebody to give you the Wi-Fi password, then go and log in thinking, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And so I ended up booking a flight, and I thought, great. And I hit book, and I got this 6-letter confirmation code. And I went running back to the ticket counter. I'm like, here's my confirmation code. And she said, no, we need the ticket number. Well, when you book a flight, you get that immediate 6-digit confirmation, but your ticket number still hasn't been registered, and you're sitting there hitting refresh on your email. Hopefully you still have Wi-Fi, hitting refresh on your email until you get the actual email that has that like 15-number ticket number. She takes that number and she keys it into my reservation. Once that's keyed in, then she hands me my boarding pass. If we had run out of time, I would not have been able to take that flight. So that's just not a situation that you want to be in. It was nerve-wracking. It ended up that I was able to get my ticket, but now I'm more aware of that. So now when I'm traveling around Asia, I'm always aware that I might be asked for an onward ticket. So how you want to manage that is really up to you. The most important thing, I think, is to have thought through it and think, here's what I'll do in this situation. Here's my plan A, here's my plan B, here's my plan C. So that if it hits, then you can immediately go into executing what your plan is. I get to the airport early, just in case. So I don't say I'm going to a country and it's like, say Vietnam, it's a 90-day visa, and I don't know what day I'm going to fly out. I won't have an onward ticket in that case when I show up at the airport, but I'm getting there early, and I have a plan if it's a requirement when I check in. If it's not, great, I'll go, and once I'm here, I book my flight out when I have a better idea of where and when I'm going. If it is needed, for example, for me, because of my situation, I come from a career in software consulting, so we traveled all the time, and I built up airline miles. So I can get online and go use airline miles and book a flight from Vietnam out back to, say, Los Angeles, and then I can show that's my ticket. With airline miles, then I can always change that ticket and push it out to the actual day that I will be leaving Vietnam to go back to LA. You can jump online and book a very inexpensive ticket, if you look at like Google Flights, to a neighboring country. But you want to have done that research ahead of time. So that I won't go into what your options are on this video. Those can be found, I'm sure, on other YouTube videos or researching, but know that it is a potential thing that you need to provide, and have your thoughts about you of how you're going to do that. Also be aware that if you are in a country and you don't have Wi-Fi or data available to you, make sure that what you're planning to do and the documentation you have, you're going to be able to do it. So you have like physical forms saved in your photos on your phone that you've scanned in notes. Sometimes I'll just make a list for myself really quickly in my notes app on my phone, like, here's my plan. Because when you're in a situation that's higher stress, at least for me, I can feel my brain start to freeze because you're feeling a little bit of like panic. So I just want to have calmly thought through, taken the time, know what I'm going to do, be able to reference it, and then go, yeah, we can do this as efficiently as possible. We have the time, I'm not running late, and it's done. So as far as having documentation, I always take screenshots and also save it on my phone. And I learned that lesson, I would say, like the hard way. A couple of years ago, it was 2022, and I was here in Vietnam, and that was when we needed to renew our visa every 30 days, not 90. So I had taken the van up to the Laos border with an agency and did the land border run, where you exit the country, go around the kiosk in Laos, get stamped out, and then stamped back into Vietnam and come back. I describe it all or explain it all in my last visa video. But I had then an updated 30-day visa, and it was written in my passport. And I was here, and then I needed to leave the country very quickly for a family emergency. And I had looked everywhere for flights, like up in the north, from Ho Chi Minh City to fly back to the States, and there was nothing available for days. And it was very urgent that I leave quickly. And so I ended up booking my flight from the neighboring country, Thailand. I booked the flight out of the international airport in Bangkok back to the States because they had availability the next day. And then I quickly booked a very short flight from here to Bangkok, and it gave me like a 4-hour layover. I thought, perfect. And they were 2 separate flights, but my big flight was leaving from the neighboring country. So that day, the next morning, I went to the airport, and I remember standing in line to check my luggage, and it was the longest line I've ever been in to check my luggage and get my boarding pass. So I had arrived a little over 2 hours before my flight for an international flight. Even though it's very close, it's less than 2 hours, it's still an international flight. And I remember waiting and thinking, it's 45 minutes before I got to the front ticket counter. And I'm closing in on like an hour before my flight, but I'm still okay. And I finally am like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. And I get up there and I hand her my passport, and she's looking at me, and she said, "Are you flying from here to Bangkok?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "You're in the domestic terminal. You need to be in the international terminal, which is the entire building next door to the one I'm in." I think it was Thai Airways. There's a Thai Airways, the line I had been in the wrong terminal. And I had been so flustered getting to the airport that day, I had forgotten there's 2 separate terminals. And I think at that exact moment, as she's saying that, and I'm realizing my international flight leaves in 1 hour, and I'm in the wrong building, and I haven't checked my bags. And if I miss this flight, I will miss my flight back to the US. And it was a situation where I had a family member that if I'm not on that flight, I might not see them before they pass away. And I started to feel that like panic. And I looked at her and I just said, "Please help me. Please help me." And I think she just noticed the look in my face, and she called somebody over who came running over in a suit. And I said, "I have to be on that flight. I have to be on that flight because my flight from Bangkok goes back to the States. With that layover, if I'm not on that flight, I'm going to miss it." And he said, "Run, like go." And I just take my bag and I'm running as fast as I can out the front door of the airport, down the ramp, running next door to the next building, running inside. And as I'm running away, I can hear him on like a walkie-talkie talking away, really quickly in Vietnamese. And I was just like, "Don't hyperventilate, just go." The glass doors to the international airport open up and the place is deserted. And there's a gate way at the end, and a lady far at the end yells out my name. And I said, "Yes." And you could see her back there typing, and I just went running over. And I'm like nearly shaking. And I have so much relief. And she hands me my boarding pass, checks my luggage. Now we're, at 45 minutes before my flight. And I go through security. And now I get to immigration. Actually, immigration is first. And the immigration officer says, and I know my flight is now boarding. I have to get out to the gate. And he said, "I want to see your visa." And I thought, my visa? Like I'm leaving. And my passport has my end date. It's stamped, it's written in, and it's not for 2 more weeks. And I thought, I don't have my visa. I don't have a paper copy of it. I thought my passport was good enough. And I said, "I don't think I have it." He said, "I need it." And then he said, "Step aside." My urgency is not his issue. He wanted to see my physical form visa. And again, like now my brain is completely freezing. And I thought, do I even have a copy of it anywhere? And I don't know that I even have Wi-Fi on my phone. Thank goodness. I remember talking with the agent when I was scheduling my visa run, and she had messaged me and sent me a copy of the visa, and I was able to open that up. Actually, I wasn't able to open that up. I looked at the date she sent it because I knew I thought I had taken a screenshot of it, and I did. I went into my photos, and I found that date really quickly. I had a screenshot of it, and I opened it up, and I handed it back to the immigration officer, and he looked at it, and he said, somehow had not properly registered in his system, and he needed to see that in order for me to leave. He stamped me out, proved it, and I go out to my gate. There's like 10 people left. The last people are boarding. And at that point, I think it's just, and the relief that I'm making the flight, the tears just started running down my face, and I'm just boarding my plane, like shaking. But really, really important lessons to be learned there is that show up early, have copies of any paperwork you might need, try to think ahead of, if I had missed that flight, it really would have been emotionally devastating to me. And yeah, just don't take any chances. So when you're in that process of like making decisions, or do you want data on your phone so that you could use it, if you don't have Wi-Fi, all those things, I just always try to err on the side of making sure I'm covered, because when you're in those really important moments where things could go either way, you're really glad that you had the paper copy, and just save yourself some stress and maybe some emotional distress. So that is that story. Let's see if there's anything else on my list. Yeah, we all just want a safe, smooth trip. There are some countries where you'll see that they list that you have to show you have a certain amount of finances. So in that case, again, just be prepared. Maybe print out a current bank statement. Maybe 9 times out of 10, they won't ask for it, but if they do, you have it. You're not flustered. There's one thing that I spoke with the immigration contact about, and I said, one time I was flying into Vietnam, and they said, we need your onward ticket. And I'm so used to flying around at this point, I thought, and I feel like this is so much home for me. I went, I live there. I said, let me show you my utility bill. I can book a ticket, but can I show you my apartment utility bill for last month? Because I'm just going back. And they ended up calling a supervisor over. And I just quickly explained to her, and then it's really there at their discretion. And I think it was obvious to her that, I said, I'm not overstaying my visa. Of course, I'm going to, leave within 3 months. And she looked at the information, and then she said, okay, do you have a credit card that if they don't let you in, you book a flight and leave? I said, yes. So she said, okay. And I was explaining that to this person. I said, I was able to kind of explain my situation, and she let me go ahead without an onward ticket, even though they had asked for it. And he said, that's great. However, the immigration officer can also ask for that. So just because you got through the airline, so just be prepared. And let's see if there's anything else, excuse me, on this list. Okay, that's okay. Number 3, what we were just talking about, visa on arrival. Make sure all the info is correct to the letter as it appears on your passport. This rule is extremely strict, especially with e-visa. Most passengers can have a visa on arrival or an e-visa through an agent. You can even do a fast track service at immigration. So let's see, if you have any other questions, please let me know. I work at the Saigon airport. So let's see if there's anything else. So we were talking a little bit about the, these are my rights and I'm allowed, just kind of that general mentality. And this person said, I'm very familiar with that, and I normally try to explain the situation to passengers and find the best way out if I'm on duty. Unluckily, I've also seen other cases when passengers ended up being deported and it was too late when I had the chance to talk with them personally. It's just too bad for me to know they would lose so much time and money and work schedule. So I thought, can you imagine taking a 24 to 30-hour flight? You land here, you're exhausted. You have a certain amount of vacation time. You have your hotels booked. and you can't get in, and maybe if you're calm and can work it out, you can provide the information. But if you react poorly, the deportation order is just signed. You're going back, all the way back, another 24 to 30 hours to get to where you started from, excuse me, to pull together your paperwork or get an updated visa. And how upsetting that would be. Just a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of frustration. So definitely get your paperwork, know what to expect, be prepared, be kind, be humble. And if everything's in check, smooth sailing, you'll land here or any of the neighboring countries. Have a great trip. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, anything you'd like to share from your experiences, please feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to address them. Thanks for watching.